Have you ever suffered from job or school burnout? I did when I was 28. That burnout changed the course of my life. How I live my life now goes back to 1995 when I quit my corporate job to take a break. Little did I know at the time that corporate job ended up being the very last corporate job I would ever have. For 3 years, I worked at a high-profile company in Daytona Beach as a network manager in their IT department. I managed the computers, servers, local area network, and PC software for the company. Windows was relatively new at the time and used by only a few people. The internet as we know it today was in its infancy. There was no such thing as high-speed internet or Wi-Fi. There were only slow, noisy analog modems using phone lines to access the internet. Although it was a high-profile company, I wasn't that interested in that business they were in. It was a novelty when I started working there, but it didn't take long for me to lose interest. However, I liked working in IT and with the technology I had access to. It was there where I really expanded my IT career. But living in Daytona Beach didn't do much for me. I was single. I moved from Orlando to Daytona Beach for the job. Daytona Beach was a much smaller area and had fewer options than Orlando. After living and working in Daytona Beach for a year, I grew restless. I was single, and having only a full-time job wasn't really fulfilling to me. You have to understand that before I moved to Daytona Beach, it took me 7 years to get my bachelor's degree. I worked full-time and went to college part-time. I had no financial aid, no scholarship, and no student loans. I paid my way through college one semester at a time. After graduating from college, simply working a full-time job with no school felt so easy and light. When I moved to Daytona Beach, I generally liked my job. However, I was also looking for ways to grow professionally that went beyond getting an annual raise. I did what I could to grow within the confines of my job by earning extra IT certifications, but it wasn't enough. I felt like I had so much extra time that could be better used than watching TV or playing computer games after work. At age 26, I decided to pursue my MBA. Unfortunately, there were no MBA programs with night classes in Daytona Beach. For 2 years, I commuted back and forth to Orlando twice a week to attend classes. Similar to how I got my bachelor's degree, I never skipped semesters. I always attended summer semesters because if I didn't, it would take me a lot longer to graduate. Even if it was only one class, I would always attend summer semesters. I graduated with my MBA in May of 1995. I was 28, I was still single, and found living and working in Daytona Beach unfulfilling. I was mentally exhausted from working full-time and commuting back and forth to Orlando for 2 years to get my MBA. By this time, I also became disenchanted working for the company. The company politics of how our department was being managed and treated became condescending. I disliked the company's new reporting structure and the general disrespect for us as a department. Politically speaking, IT was a lowly department one step up from the janitorial and housekeeping departments. We would never get respect in this company. I got paid decent, but I didn't like the political crap we had to deal with every week. With my MBA degree on my resume, I started reconsidering the direction of my life and exploring options. I was already at a high-profile company in Daytona Beach and saw no good employment options locally. However, the truth of the matter is that I didn't want to live in Daytona Beach anymore. I didn't like the area. I was tired of it all. I wanted to move on, but I didn't know where. The thought of me looking for another job in my mental state felt daunting. I was burned out. I had no direction. I was unhappy. I wanted to get out. After some thinking, the easiest and fastest way for me to get out was to simply move back to Orlando, where I was from. But I didn't have much money saved up. Most of my money from the prior 2 years went towards my college expenses for the MBA. I didn't have 6 months of living expenses saved up. I knew if I had to save up 6 months worth of living expenses, I would be forced to work at least another year at this job. So I changed my assumptions. If I cut my living expenses and didn't have to pay full rent and utilities for an apartment, I wouldn't need as much money saved to leave. I told my mother about my unhappiness living in Daytona Beach. I also told her I didn't want to look for a job right away. I wanted a break to figure things out. So I asked her if I could move back into the house temporarily to save money. She said yes. She was happy to hear that I was willing to move back in with her, even if it was temporary, because she didn't like living alone. I also got the idea if I was able to get some credit lines, I would be able to offset the fact that I had little savings. So I went to 2 different banks. With my good credit, minimal debt, great employment history, and salary, I was able to apply and get 2 $10,000 unsecured credit lines. Once I got those 2 credit lines in place, I gave the apartment complex I was living at my 30-day notice to move out. A few days later, I handed my resignation letter to my boss. 4 weeks later, I was out of my apartment and moved back into a room in the family home in Orlando. I said goodbye to my boss and coworkers. I'm happy to say that I left on a high note with a great employment reference. Mission accomplished. I was finally done with that life and job in Daytona Beach. It's important to know that when I made the decision to quit my job and move on, it was supposed to be a temporary break. It was a break that ended up becoming a sabbatical. I gave myself permission to goof off, sleep late, drive around, call friends, and do whatever I wanted during this time. And I have to tell you, it felt wonderful. The first 2 weeks of doing nothing. It felt so freeing. However, after 2 weeks of doing nothing, I got a little restless again. I started reading the Sunday newspaper classified section. Some of you may not understand the significance of the Sunday paper and the classified section. Prior to the 2000s, most jobs were advertised in the classified section of the Sunday newspapers. If you were looking for a job or keeping up with the job market, the Sunday paper classified section was the thing to read. And I read the classified sections every Sunday. Somewhere along the way, during my break and reading classified job ads, I got the idea to redirect my IT background and experience towards teaching and training versus looking for another corporate support job. Within weeks, I visited a nearby technical training center and cultivated a relationship with the sales manager and the site manager. I expressed my interest in becoming a technical instructor and trainer for them. Based on my professional experience and background, they were open to the idea. Around the same time, I saw an ad by a local community college. They were looking for adjunct instructors to teach network certification courses to students seeking college credit. I had the industry field experience, technical qualifications, and the master's degree requirement to teach at the college level. And I thought I would be a good fit. Because I did not have the financial pressure to get a full-time job, I was able to spend unpaid time at the technical training center to learn, hang out with them, and nurture that working relationship. I was also able to apply for the adjunct instructor position for the community college. Without a full-time job, I had the freedom and flexibility to pursue both opportunities at the same time. These were interesting assignments to me. It lined up with my goal for professional growth and do something different. More importantly, both assignments allowed me a flexible schedule without my having to commit to them full time. Neither the training center or the community college was offering a full-time job, and that suited me just fine. I just wanted my foot in the door to get the experience. Ironically, this part-time working relationship I had with these very different schools would be the beginning of my network training and consulting business. I would ultimately move on from these 2 assignments and expand my business to travel around the US and even Europe for my assignments. I made a name for myself in various niches of the technical training industry. For 5 years, I had a nice run until I grew disenchanted with the technical training industry. It eventually became a real grind, constantly studying to keep up with ongoing software changes and taking endless certification exams. I just got tired of it. I eventually left the technical training business behind to pursue real estate investing. It was another major life and business change. This would also lead to my starting a publishing business that I have to this day. Through all the changes and challenges I went through, I was fortunate enough to not have to go back to corporate jobs. I enjoyed the flexibility of my life to pursue my business interests, not someone else's. For the last 29 years, I'm happy to say that I've mostly worked from home in my own home office long before working from home became a thing. I'm not going to lie, I've certainly had my share of financial ups and downs over the years, and it wasn't always fun. But truthfully, looking back, it's been very gratifying from a life perspective to have had so much freedom to live and work on my own terms outside the corporate world. When I quit my job in Daytona Beach at 28, it became a life-changing event that changed the course of my life. Now, would I recommend what I did to other people? Probably not. I can't say people should do what I did because my situation was different than most people. I had the ability to reduce my personal risk. I was single and had no one to worry about except myself. I was also very confident in my ability to find another job when I wanted to. But as a matter of principle, if you are able and willing, I highly recommend people take a sabbatical or two in their lives if they can to reevaluate their direction in life. It can be life-changing. Most recently, I had an involuntary sabbatical like many people during the COVID shutdown of 2020. That involuntary sabbatical thrust upon me and so many other people forced me to stop, reflect, and reevaluate the direction of my life. This YouTube channel and the fact you are watching this video is very much a result of a course change born out of the sabbatical from 2020. Where my current path ultimately leads, I don't know, but I am excited for the journey.